In this video, we're diving deep into the most rare and valuable old and dirty Washington quarters you should never spend, because one of them could completely change your life. From rare minting errors to ultra-low mintage years, certain Washington quarters have shocked the world with unbelievable auction prices. What if I told you that a dirty, worn-out 1981 Washington quarter dollar sitting in your pocket right now could be worth thousands of dollars, maybe even life-changing money asterisk asterisk? Sounds crazy, right? But stay with me, because today, we're uncovering one of the most overlooked hidden treasures in modern U.S. coinage, the 1981 Washington quarter. A coin so mysterious, so misunderstood, that collectors are still discovering shocking new values decades later. Now here's where things get interesting. Back in 1981, something unusual was happening at the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike earlier decades, the U.S. Mint was cutting costs. Quality control? Not what it used to be. Coins were being produced quickly, in massive numbers. But something changed. Proof coins were never officially released into circulation. And yet, somehow, they started showing up. That's right. A few extremely rare proof-like and high-grade 1981 quarters slipped into circulation, unnoticed, mixed in with ordinary coins, waiting for someone like you to find them. And today, those coins are worth big money. Now let me hit you with a shocking fact that most people don't know. In top condition, a 1981 Washington quarter graded MS 67 or higher has sold for over $1,000, even reaching several $1,000s at major auctions. And here's the kicker. Most people ignore this coin because it looks old, dull, even dirty. But that old, dirty look? It might actually be hiding a hidden treasure. So how do you know if you have one? Let's break it down step by step, because this is where things get exciting. First, check the date. You're looking for 1981, right on the front of the coin, below George Washington's portrait. Next, this is critical. Look for the mint mark. You want the small letter P for Philadelphia, located just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Now here's where things start separating the ordinary from the valuable. Condition is everything. Most 1981 quarters were heavily circulated, meaning they're scratched, worn, and dull. Those are usually worth face value. But if your coin has sharp details, strong luster, and minimal wear, you could be looking at serious value. And here's something shocking. Even coins pulled straight from bank rolls in 1981 often had weak strikes and poor quality. So if you find one that looks unusually sharp, almost too perfect, that's a huge red flag, in a good way. Now let's talk about errors, because this is where the real big money starts showing up. One of the most valuable varieties is the double die error. This happens when the coin is struck more than once slightly off alignment, creating a noticeable doubling effect, especially in the lettering like Liberty or In God We Trust. If you spot doubling, you could be holding a coin worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. But wait, it gets even crazier. There are also off-center strikes. These coins look like the design is shifted to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. Depending on how dramatic the error is, these can sell for $200 to $500, even over $1,000. And then there's the broad strike error, where the coin is struck without the collar, making it look wider and slightly distorted. These are rare, and collectors love them. But here's the part that shocks most people. Some of the most valuable 1981 quarters aren't flashy errors at all. They're just perfect. Coins graded MS 67 or MS 68 are incredibly rare because of the poor mint quality that year. In fact, finding one in that condition is like finding a needle in a haystack. And when they do show up at auction, collectors go crazy. There have been sales where these high-grade quarters reached $3,000 to $5,000 or more, depending on eye appeal and certification. What if I told you that an old, dirty, worn-out 1982 Washington quarter dollar sitting in your pocket right now could be worth not just a few dollars, but thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars? And most people ignore it because it looks completely ordinary. This isn't a joke. This is hidden treasure hiding in plain sight. Let me tell you a story that shocked collectors across the country. Back in the early 1980s, something unusual happened at the U.S. Mint. The year 1982 was chaotic. Production methods were changing, quality control slipped, and something critical stopped being made: mint sets. That's right. 1982 was one of the first years where official mint sets were not released. And that tiny decision created one of the most mysterious and valuable modern quarters ever. Now imagine this: millions of coins were struck, but very few were preserved in perfect condition. Most went straight into circulation. They got scratched, worn, dirty, just like the one you might have right now. And here's where it gets crazy. Collectors later realized that finding a high-quality 1982 P. Washington quarter, especially one with errors, is incredibly rare. And when something is rare in the coin world, it means big money. Let's talk numbers. A regular 1982 P quarter in average condition? Maybe 25 cents, maybe $1. But in high grades? We're talking serious money. A 1982 P. Washington quarter graded MS-67 has sold for over $1,000. And coins pushing MS-67 plus or near perfect condition. Some estimates go into $5,000 or more depending on eye appeal. But wait, it gets even better. Because the real hidden treasure is in the errors. And this is where things start getting shocking. One of the most valuable errors you need to look for is the doubled die. This happens when the design is accidentally stamped twice, slightly offset, creating a visible doubling effect. Look closely at "In God We Trust," look at "Liberty," and especially the date, 1982. If you see doubling, you might be holding a coin worth hundreds, even thousands. Some doubled die examples of Washington quarters have sold for $500 to over $2,000 depending on strength and condition. Now imagine finding that in a dirty coin you almost spent. But that's not all. There's another error that collectors go crazy for: off-center strikes. This is when the coin wasn't properly aligned during minting and part of the design is missing. If your 1982 P quarter looks slightly off, with the design shifted and blank space on one side, stop right there. Depending on how off-center it is, these coins can sell for $2,000 to $5,000, even over $1,000. And here's a shocking twist. Sometimes the dirtier the coin looks, the more likely it's been untouched for decades. That old dirty appearance? It could mean it hasn't been cleaned or altered, which collectors actually prefer. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value instantly. So that grimy quarter in your drawer? It might be more valuable than a shiny one. Now let's talk about something most people completely miss: the mint mark. For the 1982 P quarter, the P mint mark stands for Philadelphia. Look carefully on the front of the coin, near the date. What if I told you that an old, dirty, scratched 1983 P Washington quarter dollar, the kind most people would toss aside without a second thought, could secretly be worth thousands of dollars, maybe even life-changing money? And the craziest part, people are still spending these coins every single day without realizing it. This is not hype. This is hidden treasure. Let's go back to 1983, a year that most collectors overlooked for decades. Something unusual was happening inside the U.S. Mint. Just like the year before, no official mint sets were released. That decision, quiet, almost unnoticed at the time, would later turn 1983 coins into some of the hardest modern coins to find in high quality. Think about that for a second. If collectors didn't save them, where did they go? Straight into circulation. Into pockets, vending machines, cash registers, getting scratched, worn, and yes, dirty. Which means today, finding a 1983 P Washington quarter in high grade is incredibly rare. And in the coin world, rarity means one thing: big money. Now here's where things start to get shocking. A typical 1983 P quarter in worn condition? Still just 25 cents. But a high-grade example, something nearly untouched, has sold for over $1,500. And coins graded at the very top levels, like MS-67, they've reached prices close to $5,000 in auctions. That's a massive jump from pocket change to serious cash. But wait, because the real hidden treasure isn't just in condition. It's in the errors. And this is where things get exciting. One of the most famous and valuable errors for the 1983 P quarter is the doubled die. Now listen carefully, because this is something you can check right now. Look at the words "In God We Trust," look at "Liberty," and especially the date, 1983. If you see a shadow like doubling, a slight shift in the letters or numbers, that's not damage. That's a minting mistake. And mistakes like that can turn an ordinary coin into something worth hundreds, even thousands. Some double-die quarters from this era have sold for $3,000 to $8,000, even over $2,000, depending on how strong the doubling is. Now imagine finding that in a coin you thought was worthless. But we're not done yet. Here's another shocking discovery collectors love: off-center strikes. This happens when the coin wasn't properly aligned during minting. So instead of a perfectly centered design, part of the coin is missing, leaving a blank crescent shape. If your 1983 P quarter looks off, like the design is shifted, don't ignore it. Depending on how dramatic the error is, these coins can bring in $200 to $500, even $1,500 or more. And yes, even if the coin is dirty. In fact, that old dirty look might actually be a good sign, because it means the coin hasn't been cleaned. And cleaning a coin can destroy its value instantly. Collectors prefer original surfaces, even if they look worn or grimy, because it proves authenticity. So that dull, dark coin sitting in your jar? It could be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. Now let's talk about something most people miss completely: the mint mark. For this coin, you're looking for a small P next to the date. That P stands for Philadelphia, one of the busiest mints in the country. But during 1983, production pressure was high, and quality control slipped. That's why so many error coins slipped through unnoticed. And those errors are now worth big money. Now here's a real story that might shock you. A collector once searched through a simple roll of quarters from the bank. Nothing special, just everyday coins. Until they spotted a 1983 P quarter that looked slightly off. It was dirty, worn, almost ignored. But under magnification, they noticed doubling on the lettering and a weak strike around the rim. That coin later sold for over $1,000.